The Battle of Lexington and Concord, fought on April 19, 1775, marked the beginning of the American Revolutionary War. This pivotal conflict arose from growing tensions between the American colonies and British authorities, fueled by issues such as oppressive taxation and lack of representation. Key events and overview. Prelude to the battle. In response to colonial unrest, British General Thomas Gage ordered troops to seize military supplies stored by the colonists in Concord. The colonists were alerted to this plan through an efficient network of communication, notably the midnight ride of Paul Revere and others who warned local militias. First shots fired. The confrontation began in Lexington, where about 77 local militia members faced off against approximately 700 British troops. The exact details of who fired the first shot remain unclear, but it is often referred to as the shot heard round the world. The skirmish resulted in 8 American militiamen killed. March to Concord. After Lexington, the British continued their march to Concord, where they encountered more significant resistance. The colonial militia had relocated most of their supplies, leading to a confrontation at the North Bridge. Here, around 400 American patriots engaged British forces and forced them to retreat. British retreat. As the British began their withdrawal back to Boston, they faced continuous fire from colonial militias positioned along the route. This guerrilla-style warfare showcased the determination and organization of the colonial forces. The battles of Lexington and Concord were crucial for several reasons. First, military engagement. These battles marked the first military engagements of the American Revolutionary War, signaling a shift from political dissent to armed conflict. Boosted morale. The colonial victory at Concord raised morale among patriots and demonstrated that they could stand up against British regulars. Mobilization of support. News of the battles spread quickly throughout the colonies, rallying support for the revolutionary cause and leading to increased enlistment in militia groups. Beginning of a long struggle. The events initiated a prolonged struggle for independence that would ultimately lead to the establishment of the United States. The Battle of Lexington and Concord was a defining moment in American history that set the stage for a revolutionary movement against British rule. It exemplified the colonists' resolve to defend their rights and liberties, ultimately culminating in a fight for independence that would last for several years. Paul Revere played a crucial role in the events leading up to and during the battles of Lexington and Concord, which marked the beginning of the American Revolutionary War. Here are the key aspects of his involvement. Midnight Ride. On the night of April 18, 1775, Paul Revere was tasked with alerting the colonial militias about the British troops' movements. He rode from Boston to Lexington, warning local leaders and militias that British forces were coming to seize military supplies stored in Concord. His famous ride was part of a larger alarm system that included other riders like William Dawes and Samuel Prescott. Signal from the Old North Church. Revere coordinated with other patriots to signal the British approach. The plan involved using lanterns hung in the steeple of the Old North Church, 1 lantern if the British were coming by land and 2 if by sea. On the night of his ride, 2 lanterns were displayed, indicating that the British were rowing across Boston Harbor. Warning local militias. As he rode through towns such as Medford and Arlington, then Menotomy, Revere warned residents to prepare for battle. His efforts helped mobilize local militias, who gathered to confront the British forces. Confrontation at Lexington. Revere arrived in Lexington early in the morning of April 19, where he met with local militia leaders, including Captain John Parker. He informed them of the approaching British troops, which allowed them to prepare for confrontation. Capture by British forces. While attempting to continue his ride to Concord with fellow rider Dawes, Revere was captured by a British patrol near Lincoln. Although he was held briefly for questioning, he managed to escape without his horse and continued spreading the alarm. Impact on the battles. Revere's efforts were instrumental in rallying local militias and ensuring they were prepared when British troops arrived in Lexington and Concord. His actions contributed significantly to the colonial response that ultimately led to confrontations with British forces. Paul Revere's Midnight Ride is celebrated as a pivotal moment in American history, symbolizing patriotism and readiness to defend colonial rights. His quick actions helped mobilize militias and set the stage for the battles of Lexington and Concord, which ignited the Revolutionary War. Francis Smith was a key figure in the battles of Lexington and Concord, which took place on April 19, 1775. As a British officer, he played a significant role in the early stages of the American Revolutionary War. Here are the main aspects of his involvement. 1. Leadership of British forces. Francis Smith held the rank of lieutenant colonel and was responsible for leading approximately 700 British soldiers sent from Boston to Concord. His mission was to seize and destroy military supplies that had been stockpiled by colonial militias. 2. Executing orders. Smith received secret orders from British High Command to carry out this operation, aimed at reducing the colonists' ability to resist British authority. However, prior warnings from patriots about British intentions led to the relocation of most supplies before Smith's forces arrived. 3. Advance to Lexington. Upon reaching Lexington in the early morning, Smith encountered a group of militia men led by Captain John Parker. A brief confrontation ensued, resulting in the deaths of 8 militia members while the British suffered fewer casualties. 4. March to Concord. After the skirmish at Lexington, Smith and his troops continued their march toward Concord, where they split into smaller groups to search for military supplies. At the North Bridge in Concord, they faced stronger resistance from approximately 400 militia members who had gathered there. 5. Retreat and withdrawal. After encountering significant resistance in Concord and under continuous fire during their retreat back to Boston, Smith decided to withdraw. His forces were harassed by militia members who utilized guerrilla tactics, taking advantage of the local terrain. During the retreat, Smith received reinforcements led by Brigadier General Hugh Percy, which helped secure a more organized withdrawal back to Boston amidst ongoing attacks from colonial militias. Francis Smith's role in the battles of Lexington and Concord was crucial but also fraught with challenges. His leadership during this initial conflict marked a significant moment in American history, as it ignited armed resistance against British rule and set the stage for the Revolutionary War. The events of that day highlighted the determination of the colonial militias and foreshadowed the larger conflict that would follow. John Parker was a significant figure in the battles of Lexington and Concord, which took place on April 19, 1775. Here are the key aspects of his role in these pivotal events. 1. Militia leadership. John Parker served as the captain of the Lexington militia, leading approximately 77 local militia members in response to the approaching British forces. He was known for his courage and commitment to the cause of independence. 2. Preparing for engagement. When Parker learned that British troops were marching toward Lexington, he quickly gathered his militia members early on the morning of the battle. His goal was to confront the British and prevent them from reaching military supplies stored in Concord. 3. The first confrontation. Upon the arrival of British troops in Lexington, Parker faced them directly. Despite being outnumbered, he ordered his men to disperse and take positions. The first shots were fired during this encounter, marking the beginning of armed conflict between British soldiers and American patriots. 4. Withdrawal and retreat. After the initial shots were fired, 8 militia members were killed, including some of Parker's men. Recognizing that the situation was unfavorable and that further resistance could lead to greater losses, Parker ordered his men to retreat to avoid additional casualties. 5. Impact on the battle. Although Parker did not achieve a clear victory at Lexington, his leadership and bravery inspired many other patriots to join the fight against British forces. The events at Lexington served as a catalyst for the larger conflict that would develop into the American Revolutionary War. John Parker's role in the battles of Lexington and Concord was crucial in shaping the events that led to the American Revolution. His courage and leadership not only motivated those around him but also symbolized the determination of ordinary citizens to stand up for their rights and freedoms against British rule. His actions are remembered as a significant part of American history. Samuel Dawes played a significant role in the events leading up to and during the battles of Lexington and Concord on April 19, 1775. Here are the key aspects of his involvement. 1. Midnight Ride. Samuel Dawes was one of the riders tasked with alerting the colonial militias about the British troops' movements. On the night of April 18, 1775, he rode out from Boston to warn local leaders and militias that British forces were marching to seize military supplies stored in Concord. 2. Coordinating with other riders. Dawes rode alongside Revere, who took a different route to spread the alarm. They both aimed to inform as many people as possible about the impending British advance. Dawes covered the southern land route across Boston Neck, while Revere took a water route. 3. Reaching Lexington. Upon reaching Lexington, Dawes joined Revere and other Patriot leaders, including John Hancock and Samuel Adams. They discussed the situation and prepared for the arrival of British troops. Dawes helped organize local militia members in anticipation of confrontation. 4. Encounter with British patrol. While continuing toward Concord with Revere and another rider, Samuel Prescott, Dawes encountered a British patrol led by Major Mitchell near Lincoln. During this encounter, Dawes was thrown from his horse and captured, while Prescott managed to escape and continue on to Concord. 5. Impact on the battle. Although Dawes did not reach Concord due to his capture, his efforts in spreading the alarm were crucial in mobilizing local militias. His actions contributed to the rapid assembly of militia forces that would ultimately confront British troops at both Lexington and Concord. Samuel Dawes's role in the battles of Lexington and Concord was vital in alerting colonists to the British threat. His midnight ride, alongside Paul Revere, exemplified the commitment of patriots to defend their rights and prepare for armed resistance against British rule. Despite facing challenges during his ride, Dawes's contributions helped set the stage for the first military engagements of the American Revolutionary War. The American forces employed several key maneuvers during the battles of Lexington and Concord, which took place on April 19, 1775. These tactics were crucial in confronting British troops and ultimately contributed to the colonial victory. Here are the prominent maneuvers executed by the American forces. 1. Mobilization of militia. The American forces, primarily composed of local militia and Minutemen, were quickly mobilized due to an effective alarm system. The midnight rides of Paul Revere and Samuel Dawes alerted the militias in surrounding areas about the British advance, allowing them to gather rapidly. 2. Defensive positioning at Lexington. At Lexington, Captain John Parker positioned his militia on the town green to confront the British troops. Although outnumbered, Parker ordered his men to disperse when the British approached. The initial confrontation resulted in a brief exchange of fire, marking the beginning of armed conflict. 3. Gathering forces at Concord. As British troops advanced to Concord, local militia members from various towns began to assemble at strategic locations. Approximately 400 militiamen gathered on high ground near Concord, prepared to engage the British forces. Their numbers provided a significant morale boost and tactical advantage. 4. Engagement at North Bridge. At the North Bridge in Concord, the American forces executed a coordinated advance against British soldiers. The militia, led by Captain Isaac Davis and Major John Buttrick, approached in an organized manner. When they came within range, they opened fire on the British troops, who were initially intimidated by their numbers and orderly advance. 5. Guerrilla tactics during retreat. As British forces began their retreat back to Boston after their engagement in Concord, they faced continuous harassment from colonial militias along their route. The Americans utilized guerrilla tactics by hiding behind trees, walls, and buildings to ambush British soldiers during their withdrawal. This tactic allowed them to inflict significant casualties on the retreating troops. 6. Utilization of local knowledge. The American forces had a better understanding of the local terrain compared to the British troops. This knowledge allowed them to effectively utilize natural cover and ambush points during engagements, enhancing their tactical advantage throughout the battle. The maneuvers employed by American forces during the battles of Lexington and Concord showcased their ability to organize quickly and adapt to battlefield conditions. These tactics not only helped them confront British forces effectively, but also set a precedent for future engagements in the Revolutionary War, demonstrating their resolve and capability in fighting for independence. The alliance between the militias during the battles of Lexington and Concord played a crucial role in the American success against British forces. Here are the key ways in which this collaboration contributed to their victory. 1. Rapid mobilization. The effective communication network established by the Patriots, including the midnight rides of Paul Revere and Samuel Dawes, allowed for rapid mobilization of militia groups from various towns. This swift response ensured that a significant number of armed men were present to confront the British troops as they advanced toward Concord. 2. Coordinated defense. The militias from different communities coordinated their efforts to defend against the British. Upon learning of the British march, local militias gathered at key locations such as Lexington and Concord, allowing them to present a united front. This coordination was essential in confronting British forces at multiple points along their route. 3. Increased numbers and morale. The alliance among various militia groups resulted in a larger force than any single group could muster alone. At Concord, approximately 400 militia members confronted the British, significantly outnumbering them by the time they reached the North Bridge. The presence of a larger force boosted morale among the Patriots, demonstrating their readiness to resist British authority. 4. Guerrilla tactics. As the British retreated back to Boston, the Allied militias employed guerrilla tactics, using their knowledge of the local terrain to launch ambushes and harass British troops along their route. This strategy effectively inflicted casualties on the retreating British and showcased the advantages of local militia cooperation. 5. Symbol of unity and resistance. The collaboration between different militias symbolized a growing sense of unity among the colonies against British oppression. This collective action not only strengthened their immediate military efforts, but also laid the groundwork for future cooperation throughout the Revolutionary War, fostering a sense of shared purpose among colonists. The alliance between militias during the battles of Lexington and Concord was instrumental in achieving American success against British forces. Their rapid mobilization, coordinated defense strategies, increased numbers, effective use of guerrilla tactics, and symbolic unity all contributed to a significant early victory in the American Revolutionary War. This collaboration set a precedent for future military efforts and helped galvanize support for independence across the colonies.